Morning, Janice.
Good morning, Anthony.
Today we'll talk about what is a strong offer on probate real estate. So the question is the highest offer necessarily the strongest offer? No, not every, actually most of the time, and in many cases, no, especially in probate. And we see this all the time, Janice. We have either heirs or a co-executor or somebody involved saying, hey, I can get an offer that's, $100,000 more or $25,000 more. We should take that one. And then, yes, all things being equal, the higher offer is, we will take that. We can count 1, 2, 3. That 3 is higher than 2.
Right. Right.
But it's not. That's usually, it's usually not the case that the two offers are otherwise identical. And there are other things we need to take into account, such as whether or not the buyer is credible, whether or not the sale will actually close, and we'll get into those in detail now. But before we get into those details, let's talk about the minimum sort of requirements or elements we want to see to make sure that a buyer is really qualified or a good fit for a probate real estate sale. And we call those the 3 F's of probate home buyers. The first F is financials. So obviously all cash is best. Instead of a mortgage, because you have the risk of a mortgage getting denied or just a lot of entanglements. And we already have so many things going on with a probate real estate sale. You don't want to add one more level of complexity to that.
Right.
But if the property that we're trying to sell lends itself or is sort of best suited for traditional mom and pop buyers or newlywed buyers, then yes, of course, we'll deal with a mortgage and just add that to the mix of potential problems.
Yeah.
And when we talk about financials for a probate home buyer, we want to see, a good, healthy down payment, as well as a healthy amount of post-closing funds, so that we don't run the risk of either, again, mortgage problems, co-op or condo or homeowners associations, like not qualifying them for financial. We want to see basically uber financial strength. Yeah, does that make sense?
Absolutely. You don't want to be buying a $2 million home on a tiny little budget and have $100 in the bank. Right.
Yeah. Second F for qualifying probate home buyers is fast. We need to sell fast. I mean, we're not desperate. We're not going to acquiesce to a bad offer just for speed, but it's important. The sooner, the better. Think about why. Let's explain why. A normal home seller, can, if they don't like a deal, they'll just keep living there. Right. Whether it's, maybe it's their kid's school schedule get messed up or something like that, but that's not really a huge problem. For us, the estate property is vacant. Somebody has passed away and that property is usually vacant. So we are bleeding cash every month, whether it's the maintenance, an existing mortgage, along those lines. Yeah.
Yeah. All the utilities, they have to stay on.
Very good.
And no one's living there.
And it's not just active cash, but it's rather the house of any vacant property is going to not be well tended as compared to somebody living there. Right. So little things might start to wear down. I know this probably sounds dramatic if probate only takes about a year, but hey, one bad winter can lead to a lot of wear and tear on a vacant property.
A lot.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes.
And that will all bring down the value. So the sooner the better. We want this thing in contract, and we want those issues to be somebody else's problems. No offense, buyers.
If you have somebody living there and you have a massive snowstorm, they're going to take care of it probably way sooner than we would even know there was a problem.
Exactly.
Because nobody's inside to see that maybe there's a tiny problem with the roof, right?
Also, somebody who's living there wants it to be nice, right? So they're just more incentivized.
They're going to take pride because they live there, whereas we may not see it every single day.
And a homeowner just does it on their own time. There's a cost-benefit analysis when you have an executor or you have to hire people. It's different.
It's very expensive.
So the last F for the 3 Fs of qualifying probate home buyers is we need our buyers to be flexible. And flexibility is important, I guess, with traditional home sales as well. But, we really can't afford to deal with, to handhold a first-time home buyer. I mean, does that make sense, Jess? Can you see that from our point of view? Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. They have to know what they're doing at this point. We have so many, like you said, other things on our plate that the last thing we want to do is help them through the entire process.
So why is that? Like we've mentioned a couple of times, all the other things we have to do. What are some examples? We often need to get additional court orders. If it's a bonded executorship, we have to get special approval to sell the property. We have to get tax waivers. We have to get approval from the IRS and the New York State Department of Taxation before we can close on any sale. And there's just so many other little things that pop up. Again, it's just a lot of moving parts. We don't want to get entangled in any more than we have to. Yeah.
Right. Absolutely.
Okay. So now that we have all that straightened out, so that our buyer has met those minimum requirements, and now we have two offers, and one is higher than the other. But in what circumstance might we accept the lower one? Well, we want to know, is the probate home buyer credible? So, we
laugh.
We usually get investor buyers for probate properties because there's usually a bit of a mess there, and it's maybe a little too much for a first-time home buyer or even a first-time renovator. Let's call that renovation buyer.
Yeah.
But when you get experienced investors, so we want to weed out the buyers who just watched a YouTube video or a TikTok video about how to flip a house and oh, I can do this, and I heard probate properties are cheap. Let me throw in my uber lowball offer. We try to avoid those folks. Yeah.
Right.
They're looking for a probate steal, and that's not us. We don't do that.
No.
But on the flip side, savvy or experienced investors, I don't know. They can be kind of a little sharky, a little kind of too smart for their own good, trying to cut the best possible deal that exists. And something that we've seen over and over again is these these quote unquote savvy investors coming in at a pretty aggressive or pretty high offer, only with the. It's so obvious now, but the goal is to clear out all the other offers and make them the focus of our negotiations.
Yeah.
And once they've sort of made it clear that they're the only ones left at the table, then they start saying, "Oh wait, I didn't notice that there was a problem with the porch. Oh wait, you know what? That's going to be a bit. There's a scaffolding outside, and eventually they nickel and dime you or try to nickel and dime you all the way back down to what was the next best offer, which you would have taken without all this nonsense, right?" Correct.
Yep.
So we get that all the time. So if anyone's saying, "Hey, this guy's offering a little bit more, why aren't we dealing with them?" Just based on experience, we can't necessarily point to a specific thing, but we can often tell this guy that is not the number they're going to settle at. They're going to come back down. Yeah.
We're looking at the big picture, the whole package, right? Even though one's a little higher, what are we going to deal with, right?
And then similarly, we often have, we want to know, will this sale actually close? Even if they come in 10%, 15% higher than the next highest offer, will this deal actually consummate? Or is this just a number that is sort of theoretical?
Right. They just threw it out there to see what would happen. Right.
Will they actually get approved for a mortgage at that amount? Will the property get approved for a mortgage at that amount? Will this is a big one, and we've talked about this a lot. Will the co-op, or I guess in other places, homeowners association, will they actually approve this buyer, whether for financial reasons or personality or cultural fit? If we're selling an artist's loft in Soho, and the buyer is, what's the opposite of an artist, Janice?
Not an artist.
Is a Philistine, I guess. I don't know.
I don't know.
Or somebody who's purely in finance, or something that's completely unrelated to the fit and
pretty
culture.
Much me. Yeah, I can't even draw a stick figure. So I would be the opposite. Right.
They might not pass board approval. And yes, in New York, you can get rejected from buying a co-op for pretty much almost any reason except for protected, anti-discriminatory things.
Correct.
And then lastly, wondering whether or not a buyer will actually close. Again, with the savvy investors, we see folks come in to make an offer that's very aggressive, quote unquote, the highest offer.
Yep.
But then when they can't get it negotiated down to their liking, they will bail. And if you're thinking, if they bail, you get to keep their down payment. No, they'll just litigate and just drag it out because they don't.
Yep.
This is not like this is not a mom and pop where all their eggs are in this down payment. That money they can afford to let that sit for a few months while they sue you. So we avoid those people like the plague, of course, right? They might wield that litigation hammer as just close at the price we want. Otherwise, we're gonna hold up your probate for 6 months to 2 years. Who knows?
Right. And in that time, what we talked about it earlier, what's happening? You're paying for this empty apartment. Everything's happening. You could have gone with the second buyer and been done by now. Right. So
again, we get a lot of numbers that seem great. And our heirs will often ask, "Why aren't you taking that one? Please, look, you're leaving $100,000 on the table." No, we're not. Those deals,
Right.
at least in our experience, will not close at that number, or there'll be massive problems. As we're actually, Janice, did you see the emails this morning on the Westchester property?
Yep.
Yeah. So we knew in the beginning that was a pie in the sky deal, and it is playing out kind of as we saw it. Sorry, this is a big. I told you so to nobody. But
I know. But we told you so. What's that phrase that sometimes if it's too good to be true, it's not the way to go, right? And it's not that we've done this before, so we know. We see those little red flags.
Oh, well.
As we know. Whatever.
Yeah. All right, so that's it. Those are our reasons, or this is how we evaluate what is the strongest offer on a probate real estate sale, and it is not necessarily the highest price. And then when our heirs ask why, this episode is a sort of explaining why. Yeah.
Yes. Yep. Absolutely. You want to know in general how probate works? I recommend Anthony's book, How Probate Works, available on Amazon.
Perfect. Thanks, Janice. As always, I hope you listeners found this helpful. When wondering why your executor didn't accept the highest offer, there's probably a reason why. Okay. Yeah. Thanks again, everyone, and we'll talk soon next time. Bye now.
Talk soon.